No gas, all brakes. The Big Ten championship dream is dead for Ohio State. College football playoff and a national championship still in reach, but I bet that's not much silver lining right now for Ohio State. Welcome to Snap Judgments. He is Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward, and the Indiana Hoosiers beat the Buckeyes 13-10. They are the Big Ten champions.
They played better. I mean, bottom line, Indiana came out and played great. They didn't make a mistake tonight. Yeah, they had a couple penalties. Yeah, they had an interception in the inside of the 25, but that was because ball just bounced the wrong way, and it just seemed all night Ohio State could not get out of its own way on offense. It seemed like the offensive line decided to mirror last week's game, but in the upside down, because the first half of this game was as bad a first half as I've seen an Ohio State offensive line play in years. Kudos to Indiana, though. They deserved it. They're the reason that the Ohio State offensive line was so confused. They're the reason Julian Sain was so confused. I thought the second half, Julian Sain played pretty well. I thought the Ohio State run game got going in the second half. It was just inside of the 10-yard line. The Buckeyes continue to shoot themselves in the foot. Bad play calls, confusing play calls, putting themselves in a position where you have one guy running a route, and if that guy doesn't get open, then you end up having to go for it on 4th and 1 with Julian Sain. They should have done that sneak on 3rd down, in my opinion. And if you want to go for it on 4th, then you have something else. The missed field goal, you can't miss a 25-yard field goal in college football and expect to win. There's no world where an Ohio State kicker should miss an extra point, and that's what that was for Jaden Fielding to tie the game. But I mean, it's irrelevant at this point. Indiana is the champion. They played better than Ohio State. And you don't want to start diving into the bag of excuses, but there's no way these last 3 or 4 days for Ohio State were not an absolute chaos factory. Aside from the Brian Hartline stuff on Wednesday, then all the Chris Henry stuff, Penn State coming after Matt Patricia this week. There was a lot of stuff going on, and I just don't think Ohio State was prepared. And that starts with Ryan Day. He'll be the first person to admit it. He's not going to make excuses. I'm not trying to make them for him, but this was just an offensive game plan that was disjointed from the start. They didn't throw the ball to anybody but Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith in the first half. The running stats are skewed because of all the sacks, but it was just Indiana whipped their ass. I mean, that's really what it came down to, especially in the first half, which is ironic because Ohio State was leading 10-6 in the first half. The Buckeyes, I thought, played better in the second half, but they got beat on a couple big plays. Indiana was very aggressive. Ohio State wasn't.
Yeah, so, bad pun, I guess, to start Snap Judgments, but if Ryan Day said it about a month ago, he actually said it to Pat McAfee, who was in this box right over here to my left, and said when Ohio State needs to push the gas pedal and change the pace or be more aggressive, it will do so. That it's been all year playing at this methodical pace and a lower tempo, and maybe it just said it could do that again tonight and get out of here and beat Indiana at that pace. But even throughout this second half, as Ohio State marched it down in both directions before bogging down in the red zone, and especially in the fourth quarter, it was you have to score if you're going to take up 8 minutes of time marching down the field. And if you get down to the 9-yard line right here and you can't get it on 3rd and 1, and then you miss a field goal on 4th and 1, then there's not enough time to recover. And they did not go to a more urgent approach. They did not try and play 12 possessions instead of 6 or 7 possessions. And
they had 3 in the second half.
Yeah, and clearly that was still by design. They never changed their approach. They did not. And when you start 0 for 5 on 3rd down, guess what? Those possessions are going to end. So they were not as efficient as normal, which is part of this conversation. But I did not understand the approach. I thought that Ohio State was too slow to adjust. It became clear pretty much right away that Ohio State was being overwhelmed and confused by where the pressure was coming from. A lot of it was happening at right guard. When they put in Gabe Van Sickle, they strung together 2 of their most productive drives of the evening. Now, one stopped on a 4th and 1. You said you would have liked to seen the sneak on 3rd and 1. Maybe it would have been more effective, but I don't think that Julian Sain right now, the small sample size that we have to evaluate, doesn't seem like he is all that suited for that. Could have used Lincoln Kienholz for that, didn't see that. Could have done a number of other things, but he put the knee down, it was overturned, and then they got into that situation again, and rather than go for a 4th and 1 from the 9, they kick the field goal, they miss it. Again, the ringing echoes of the loss to Michigan at the end of 2024. The score is the exact same, and a lot of the issues were the exact same.
Yeah, and again, I understand what you're saying about not the third down the sneak versus the fourth down sneak. Julian saying the last 2 weeks has struggled with that. He's not been bad at that throughout the year, but in my opinion, you do it on third down because on fourth down, you just know it's coming.
I don't want to get down into that.
Well, but it is relevant to the overall discussion, which is the play calling, again, inside of the red zone is predictable.
Sure.
If it's fourth down and you have your quarterback under center and he's not been under center all day, you know what's coming. And so if you do that on third down, at least you have something else you can play off of. Or as you mentioned, you've been exercising this Lincoln Keenholz package for weeks and weeks and weeks. And then in this game, when you are obviously struggling inside of the red zone, you don't bring him out there. And if you're talking about equating numbers, when you're getting your butt kicked up front by the slanting Indiana defensive line, the way that they're blitzing their linebackers, the way they're doing things, it just seemed like Ohio State was like, well, we're going to get out of here. We're going to win this game 13-10 or 10-7, 10-6, and it'll be fine. And again, the point here is that Ohio State did not seem interested in winning this game on offense. And that's the exact same problem that we saw against Michigan a year ago. To be fair, I thought the defense played extremely conservative all game long. And I don't remember a single blitz from anywhere. The front four did a great job today getting pressure. Kenyatta Jackson, Caden Curry. The way that this game was officiated is a whole different conversation. And
it was an abomination.
It's not meant to be an excuse, but everyone saw it on TV. Everyone saw it in the building. The holds today were as bad as I've ever seen. But Matt Patricia and the defense did not adjust to try and upset Fernando Mendoza's vision at all. There was no blitzing from the linebackers, no blitzing from the secondary. It was just like, we're going to back off and let them do their thing. And we saw it against Illinois. When you're playing against a quarterback that's good, and Fernando Mendoza's good, like, he's going to make plays and extend plays. And he was able to get out of the pocket and create third down, convert on third downs where Ohio State wasn't. And ultimately, I just think this was a defensive and offensive staff that was not prepared for this game. And it is puzzling.
Yeah, and I asked Ryan Day in the post-game press conference, if anything was different about the operating procedure, whether that entails the way that the game plan was built throughout the week or whether the way it was called on Saturday. And he took one of those 3-second pauses that you get from Ryan Day when he does not want to answer that question, or at least that's the way that I viewed it, and then said, no, we collaborate on these things all week long. We're trying to do the things that we have to do to put the team in position and succeed. To me, there's only two options here. Either, and maybe you could say that there's more, but the way I'm looking at it right now, either Ryan Day was concerned about stretched out focus or double duty from Brian Hartline and took more control of the play calling. He had Keenan Bailey in his hip pocket for a number of plays that looked like to me in the second half. I don't know. I'm not on the headset. I can't say. Either he took more control of that, or the other option is that his offensive coordinator, who has been running this show for the entire year, called his worst game of the season at the worst time. It has to be one of those two things.
Yeah. It's probably, or a combination of those two things. And it started in the second half where Ryan Day took over. We don't know. Yeah. Because again, the offense did move the ball very well in the second half in their 3 possessions. It's just not good enough when you end up your first possession, you come out of the half. Ryan Day's talked all year about winning the middle 8. You get the ball to start the second half. You have a couple big runs by Bo Jackson. The offense is starting to get going. The offensive line's starting to churn a little bit. And then you immediately drop back. Julian saying gets sacked twice in a row. All of a sudden it's 3rd and 29.
Well, he got sacked once.
He got sacked once and then got out of it on the second one. That obviously would have changed some things too. But again, that's what I'm saying. Like, when things started to work, they just stopped doing them, and it didn't make any sense. And that's the exact same the exact opposite of that is when Julian Sain started getting into a rhythm on the second drive of the half. Buckeyes get down to the 9, and then all of a sudden it's run. And it's just very, very puzzling to watch this inside of the 10 offense, and that has been the case all year long. I don't care who's calling it; it's bad.
Yeah. So. Just like
the 13 personnel, the 14 personnel.
They were running it in situations like on the drive where they needed to go score in the fourth quarter. And it's like 2nd and 2, 2nd and 1, and they're still in this heavy personnel. And you have Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis on your team, and like none of them are on the field.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the approach. I didn't understand the personnel. I didn't understand how they were trying to attack Indiana. And all that's to say, like, we're going to be incredibly confused by that and frustrated by it because Ohio State missed an opportunity that they said they desperately wanted to win a Big Ten championship. You know, the hope would be that they can turn 13-10 again into fuel and reload that tank into the stretch run going into the college football playoff, because we assume that they're going to have a first-round bye. They will have 3 weeks to look at everything that went wrong here and correct that. There's a chance that they will face Indiana again with another trophy on the line. So we'll see later on Sunday, you know, where they're going and who they're playing. But when they get into another talent-equated situation like they faced tonight, I don't think that they can play at this NFL-style methodical tempo in every single game. You need to be able to adjust, and that's another thing, Birm, that Ryan Day says a lot. He's like, you need to do what's best to win these games. Tonight, trying to run out the clock on Indiana was not the best way to win the game.
Well, not if you're going to throw it to Bennett Christian on 3rd down and 1 from the 8-yard line. I mean, that's again, you run. There's a 2-man route. There was the running back and there was Bennett Christian. You load up everyone at the line of scrimmage, and then you try. I'm going to keep reiterating. I'm going to keep repeating myself. The bottom line here for Ohio State is that you have to now bounce back, right? So this was ugly. There's going to be a lot of picking nits, a lot of problems that were exposed tonight. I think Indiana is maybe one of the few teams in the country that has a third receiver that is actually good enough to challenge the Ohio State secondary. You saw the Hoosiers go after Lorenzo Styles tonight. I thought Lorenzo, even on the pass interference down here, I don't think it was pass interference. The other one, the guy just made a great play, a perfectly thrown ball right in his arms. Not many teams they play are going to have a quarterback that can do that and the receivers that can make those plays that Indiana's guys did. Indiana also did a great job with the RPO game, as we talked about all week. They run the ball pretty well. They effectively, they handled the line of scrimmage in the run game, although the Buckeyes figured that out as things went along. But I just don't know where you go from here with the offense. Again, like, you have these guys, you've been waiting all year to get to this point, and then you still hold them back. Just does not make a lick of sense to me. I will say, trying to turn positives here, I thought Ryan Day in the post-game press conference was note perfect. I thought he was like, hey, this sucks. Guys are pissed off. We're going to fix it. They know that this game was not the end of the season one way or the other. But as I said on the pregame keys, the hard part now is that you have to try to regroup heading into the playoff when you really would like to have gone into this with some real confidence. Say, hey, we can play any style, beat anyone. And Indiana tonight beat Ohio State at their own game, which was just not expected.
Not expected is the exact right way to put it, Birm, because they're coming off of a performance at Michigan in the Big House to win Gold Pants, where the offensive line played its best game of the year. You saw Bo Jackson run for over 100 yards. You saw Jeremiah and Carnell come back and what that does for the offense. And it's like, you wanted a repeat performance of that Michigan game, obviously not the one from 2024. And that's the one we watched. And it just was like watching a car wreck in slow motion, because it's like everything that you remembered happening from 2024 in the horseshoe against Michigan, happened here tonight. It didn't happen twice for Jaden Fielding, but it happened once. Red zone issues and breakdowns, that play call actually could have worked. I saw what they were going for, but they missed a block over on this side of the line, or they didn't execute. It wasn't even the exact same in that they were running the football right at 2 NFL defensive tackles, but they were telegraphing what they were going to do.
Slow developing, very easy to predict offense. And again, Indiana deserves a lot of credit. They did the right thing. I said it a couple times this week, and I'm not going to say that I'm positive this is a part of the mindset, but I think this Ohio State team thought that the Indiana game last year was going to be indicative of what this Indiana team is. And this Indiana team, they brought in 60 transfers a year ago. They brought in 50 in this offseason. It's not the same team. And when you add a quarterback like Fernando Mendoza, who's a potential number 1 overall pick, this is what happens. You got beat. And Ohio State doesn't get beat very often. I'm not even going to say they beat themselves. Yeah, they obviously stumbled. They had things that they didn't do well, but Indiana played better than them. And that's on Ryan Day. That's on his coaching staff to figure out. So there's no reason to make excuses. Now you just have to find answers.
Yeah, I would like an explanation,
Sure.
not an excuse, for what does Kenyatta Jackson have to do? I don't understand. It happened at least 7 times.
I mean, it was it was as bad an officiated game as I've ever seen. And that doesn't matter. It's 13-10. You should be able to score 2 touchdowns in the Big Ten championship game if you're Ohio State and you have these weapons. And they missed 3 opportunities to do so, and that's on them.
Yeah.
You did enough to win this game with your defense, even with your defensive ends being mugged over and over and over. It was enough. The offense, again, which is the craziest thing when you look back at in the lineage, the history of Ryan Day, like the last 2 losses have been just abysmal offensive performances, and not even just performances, it's game plans, and it's really hard to understand. Last year they fixed it. I guess we're going to find out if they do this year.
The opportunity will still be in front of them to go win a national championship. They are now 12-1. They are almost certainly going to be a top 4 team later on Sunday. The Buckeyes will be back in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. Most of them, I assume they will have their meeting and find out afterwards where they're going, what the practice schedule looks like. Ohio State should be getting a first-round bye in the college football playoff.
If they don't, then we have to scrap the entire Big Ten. We have to scrap conference championship games.
I agree with you. This was number 1 versus number 2, and it was settled by a field goal. So it would be stunning, especially based on what happened around the country elsewhere, for Ohio State to drop out of the top 4, which means Indiana is going to the Rose Bowl, and Ohio State will be going to either the Cotton Bowl or the Orange Bowl. Some of the early scuttlebutt was Cotton Bowl, but that's entirely going to be up to the selection committee and what they decide to do with Georgia and Texas Tech, and whether Ohio State drops to all the way to 4 for losing their first game of the year.
Does Texas Tech get to choose where they go? Will they get to play in Texas? If Ohio State falls to 4,
it's going to be up. It'll go in order. So if Texas Tech,
does the bowl get to choose?
Well, there's no. What was explained to me was that there is no Big 12 tie-in. So we know that Georgia is going to the Sugar Bowl, and we know that Indiana is going to the Rose Bowl.
Yes.
So if Ohio State stays at number 3, then my understanding is that they will go to the Cotton Bowl. If they see a 4 next to their name, they will be going to Miami and will be trying to go there twice in the college football playoff in the span of 3 games. But those are the 2 destinations, unless something stunning happens. Either way, we'll be back in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center for more snap judgments, and probably not a real celebratory press conference for the Buckeyes getting back to the college football playoff, because Ryan Day will be getting asked a lot more about what happened to the offense and coming up short in Lucas Oil Stadium and losing to Indiana 13-10 on a Saturday night, a championship Saturday night. Again, way more coming, but that is going to do it for these snap judgments. We'll talk to you again back in the great state of Ohio on Sunday, but that's a wrap for Saturday night. He's Birm. I'm Austin. We will talk to you later.